people, welcome to the Dental Efficiency Playbook. Do I have a fantastic show for you tonight? Welcome, Tim McNeely.
Hello,
Tim
Gabe.
McNeely is a wealth advisor and an entrepreneur and an absolutely fantastic guy. As a wealth advisor who specializes in helping dental entrepreneurs design efficient exits and lasting legacies, Tim combines real world insight with elite financial strategies. He's also the host of the Dental Wealth Nation show that I've had the opportunity to be on, and a number one best-selling author, passionate about helping practice owners go from success to significance. When he's not advising dentists, you'll find him speaking, writing, hanging out with his wife, Dr. Dana Yeoman, and their therapy poodles. Um, so, Tim, welcome. Anything that you would like to share with our guests tonight that I didn't cover?
No, that's it, and we'll get into all the important stuff right now for you.
Awesome. I am so excited to speak with you again, my friend. Uh, what has been new in your world? The Dental Wealth Guy and the Dental Wealth Nation.
You know what? I could tell you that we're helping dentists plan for efficient exits. I could tell you that we're helping them on the tax side. I could tell you about how we're helping you live an even more amazing life of significance. But I want to come back to what gets me up every single day, and that's helping dentists who are
Please.
listening and people in the dental industry make smarter choices with your money. There's so much confusion, Gabe, about wealth, about what to do, about how to be efficient. So I am thrilled to be here tonight and just dive into this important conversation.
I I feel like Tim, I talk to a lot of doctors and groups, and you know, I, so often I am hearing the same thing, right? From some angle of despair, challenge, fear for what they don't know, right? And that's where they are to where they need to go to be able to exit. So our subject tonight, build a lucrative exit in 5 years, which I know is something that you are passionate about doing and have helped many clients do that. It's a very necessary conversation in the market today, whether that's single big practices looking to exit at the number that they want or with the terms that they want, or it's groups that are looking to exit many times before they've achieved the results that allow them to get there, right? To get the multiple that they want or the lasting wealth that they want. So I look forward to having the discussion as well. I some questions that I have. Most dentists know they'll exit someday, right? Many times they don't know the date because they get so busy in their day to day. But what would you say the difference between leaving a practice and harvesting the wealth that they've built or should have built in the practice is, Tim?
It's such a good question, right? And the difference between exiting on your terms and because you're ready with the wealth that you want and unlocking that wealth in your business so that you have, post-exit liquidity, like that is a different strategy than just saying, oh, I'm going to sell the business someday. And I actually want to pull back, right? We're certainly talking about exit planning today, but I want to encourage you to think about not just exit planning, but I want everyone to realize like good exit planning is actually just good business planning, right? The more you plan to exit, the more you're going to build a valuable business that you actually enjoy. And I always break businesses up into two categories. Did you know there's only two categories of businesses across the entire world? And I know you're thinking, Tim, that's crazy. How are there only two kinds of businesses? But there's
Yeah,
really
please tell me because my mind's thinking more than that, right?
there's only two. There is a lifestyle business, and a lifestyle business is where you have the owner operator in that business. They're probably getting a really nice salary from the business, but when they go to exit, there's not a lot of value because they haven't built up systems, they haven't built up processes, and the business is dependent on you. The other kind of business is one that's focused on value creation. And a value creation business can run without you. It commands higher multiples in the market. And it's a business that you're going to enjoy a whole lot more if that's what you're trying to do. Like lifestyle businesses are great. My wife has a lifestyle practice, and that's fantastic for her. But if you want to build wealth, if you want to build equity for future generations, you got to do it through value creation and owning a value-based business.
Okay. I so thank you for clarifying. It makes more sense for me and surely for many of the guests that will watch this. But with that being said, you mentioned that Dana has a lifestyle practice. Please, can you further expand on that? Because obviously she's got a dental practice. She is providing care, right? And surely
Right.
with her being your wife, she is focused on developing wealth. So please, can you, like, clarify the difference between a
Oh,
lifestyle practice
yeah.
and actually a practice or group that is the other category?
Absolutely. So my wife Dana, I love her to death. And when we first met, Gabe, it was I almost destroyed the marriage over this. Like that's what a dummy I am. Is I didn't understand this difference. And I meet my wife. I'm
We're men,
entrepreneurial
right?
in nature. Like I'm all growth. I'm like Dana, we can do this in your practice, and that in your practice, and this in your practice, and then we can do this. And she's like, "Whoa, Tim." She's like, "I like doing my thing. I'm the no teeth dentist. I do dentures and partials, and I work on babies, and I don't want to do anything else. I show up to my practice. I have my friends there. I laugh. I have a good day, and I go home." She's like, "It pays the bills. I make some money with it." And she loves it. Like that's what works for her. But that is a lifestyle practice. There's some value when she goes to exit, but it's not some big massive of multiples. It's not 7x, it's not 10x, because it's
Okay.
dependent on her. It's dependent on another doctor coming in and taking over and doing the work that she's doing. So that is a lifestyle business as opposed
Okay.
to one that's focused on value creation and really building those systems and processes and looking at the core drivers of how do you accelerate that value? How do you actually build something that has an exit value for you?
Wow. So thank you for clarifying that. That helps quite a bit, quite a bit. I now can relate because when I think about, my journey, Tim, how you almost damaged your relationship when you met her. That was my experience when I went in guns a blazing as a new operations manager in practices and groups early on
Mm,
in my career too. Seasoned doctors who had been working in a practice for a period of time, much more experience than me. And I think I can come in and tell them that these are all the things that need to happen in the business.
yeah.
Um, you know, uh, Fortunately, over, 25, it's crazy to think about years later, I understand that it has nothing about all the things that need to happen. It's about aligning the goals of the provider with the goals of the practice and connecting the dots in time, right? Strategic initiatives and rollouts and making it as simple as possible and most efficient. But that is that was a process and a learning journey for me as well. So I can absolutely relate. Um, but with that being said, my next question, I think it really ties in. What are some of the red flags that you see when someone's not truly ready financially or emotionally to exit their practice?
Yeah, the red flags are huge. And this comes down to just kind of soul searching and figuring out where are you on the spectrum. And one of the biggest red flags is actually not having the systems, the processes, not having an efficient practice, because that can literally mean millions of dollars that you leave on the table. And that you can get acquired by a group who's going to say, "Oh, this is practice is a little bit of a mess, but we can clean it up." It's the same like in all these house flipping shows. That's what you see, right? You have people who come in, they buy the dilapidated property, they throw a new coat of paint on it, they fix the hole up, they do some landscaping, and then they flip the house. So the same is true in business. Who are you going to let harvest the value of your lifetime hard work? Is it going to be you? Or are you going to let someone else do that? So that's really kind of red flag number one is who's working on the business for your future value. The other big red flag is like, you don't know your number. There's a wealth gap out there, and most people don't know about this. And the way you figure out your wealth gap is like what you were talking about earlier. You got to look at where you are now, where you want to go, and how do you close that? And the way that entrepreneurs close that wealth gap is through the value of your business. It's going to be that post exit wealth that you create. That's how you close that wealth gap. But it starts by figuring out what your wealth goal is, right? How much income do you need if you never had to walk into the business again? Let that be the driver. And then you start backing into it and say, well, what do I need to get my business to be worth? And then you just start backing into it. And that you can do if you have a value based business. You can't do that with a lifestyle practice.
Interesting. Yeah. So, identifying that primary goal, in your case, wealth, right? Whereas in my case, it's whatever that result is at its highest level. Typically, it's going to align with their exit goals. But then, reverse engineering and how, and then creating the roadmap. Is that first 90 days, first year, team members, um, the intangibles and or tangibles that need to get us there, the systems and processes. So, um, how can practice owners bring the same systems and efficiency they've used to grow their practice into designing their exit strategy, Tim?
Oh, I love this one too, and right, everyone's so focused on how do you become more efficient in your practice? How do you do things better? How do you cut down on the billing time? Right, very valuable things to focus on, Gabe. But you know
Yeah.
what gets missed a lot of time is how do I be more efficient with my wealth? How do I gain tax efficiency? How do I gain tax alpha?
True.
How do you
Yeah.
really build that value so that when you exit, you're more efficient? No one ever talks about this, but this matters. And if we can get your tax bill down, if we can keep more money in your pocket, if you can shelter money as you've been growing your practice in tax efficient manners, you gain a huge advantage. So you want to be efficient, not just in your business, you want to be efficient in your life too. And this once again is a major gap. We just completed one of the largest studies of entrepreneurs ever done. I had the privilege of helping to underwrite this study. We did it with Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach, one of the largest
Oh,
coaching
wow.
organizations in the world. And what we really found, and what's so interesting, is most driven dental entrepreneurs, they want one advisor that they can go to help them understand how the business fits together with the personal. Because as entrepreneurs, those two are linked together. These are not separate for us, right? We don't show up at a job and then come home. We don't just collect the paycheck. Like these businesses represent us. They are living, breathing entities that are our lifetime of hard work. And you got to integrate the two. And that's how you become more efficient in your exit, is when you start looking at how all these things fit together. And you got to understand how the business flows into the personal.
That's great, and congrats on any project or analysis with Dan Sullivan. I absolutely have read all the books between him and Dr. Ben Hardy, and absolutely love them, and try to apply, some of the strategies that they have in my business. And I actually reflect on some of those books pretty regularly. So Tim, that's all absolutely awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Um, so, can you give one strategy? You mentioned strategies to build wealth or improve efficiency, tax strategies, for instance. Can you give one tip or trick or implementation, something that you do for practices to get them on that road?
Yeah. Are you looking for something tactical, like real world that they can go back and do to tomorrow?
Implementation, right? Something that just lets them understand, like, if I'm working with Tim, what is one thing, he mentioned these tax strategies. What is one thing that you do that is a proven, system or process or investment, what have you, to do
Yeah.
that?
One of the biggest pain points and the easiest, lowest hanging fruit I see most of the time is, what is the retirement plan that you actually have in place for your practice? What's the 401k? What's the profit sharing? What's the cash balance? And those words may sound strange to you, like, I don't even know what those things are. But if you have some kind of retirement plan in your practice where you're helping to fund employees' retirements and your own, you need to look at this thing, because this becomes one of the largest tax deductions that's available to you under the tax code. And most of these times, these plans are not managed well. You're paying too much for them, and they certainly aren't efficient. You've got issues with payroll and getting the data back and forth, huge source of stress. In fact, just talking with a multi-location doctor this morning, we're going to save them about 25% on their plan administration costs. Plus, we have the option for them to save $120,000 a year in taxes if they take advantage of that cash balance portion. But like I mentioned earlier, that may not make sense for them because they have other goals like acquiring real estate. So that's why you have to really plug together the personal and the business because, well, yeah, on the business side, it makes sense to defer as much taxes as possible, put it into the plan, but they also have real estate goals. So let's not put too much money in the plan because we got to build up down payments and use cash flow to acquire real estate. But you can only do that if you're looking at the business and the personal together. But weaponize your plan, like use it as the tool that it is. Make sure it's running efficiently and at least have the option there to defer large amounts of money. That's a missed opportunity. I see it all the time. It's one of the easiest things for doctors to fix.
That was actually another question that I wanted to ask specifically about surprises with taxes. I was talking to a group, was that yesterday, and literally they had hundreds of thousands, over $300,000 in surprise taxes. And imagine like that 300 grand, you're finding that out where you've already had your numbers calculated. Now all of a
Mm,
sudden you have an extra 300. EBITDA looked great. Then you have the taxes and there goes your net, which is, who felt that? Well, the business for one, and two, the primary owners of that group.
mm,
And that's just a huge surprise, right? So, that's great. You touched on that just a minute ago. That is why, if you
yeah,
don't have the right wealth advisor who is active in, say, your retirement plan, your tax planning from the strategy standpoint, right? Or a CPA that you only talk to once a year that's not giving you tax advice as well as your wealth advisor, you definitely need it.
yeah.
And
Well,
it's
and
not
actually,
always the people. I
if
was
I
just
can
gonna say
even
it's not
flip
always
that,
people
yeah,
inside the organization because they're too in the weeds. Like, they're looking at what's directly in front of them as opposed to your point, connecting
yeah.
everything else.
Well, and there's a way to avoid that too, believe it or not. And in my book, Dental Wealth Nation, we cover this. And what I've had the privilege of doing through other groups is we help underwrite research on the ultra wealthy, people with a net worth of $500 million more, because I want to study them. I want to learn what are the wealthiest families on earth doing, and more importantly, how can we bring those strategies down to you? No matter your net worth, whether you're worth $1 or $100 million, what are the things that we can learn from the ultra wealthy? And the ultra wealthy do something very, very well. And that's called stress testing their plans. And stress testing matters. It's how you catch a small error before it's a big error. I'm a big Formula One fan. I love the races. I was just hanging out with a buddy watching those Formula One cars race around the track. They are so fast. And what's amazing, Gabe, is these cars, if they're off by just a little tiny bit as they're going around the track, if they turn the wrong way in the rain, it literally makes the difference between winning the race and ending up off course. So how do
Or
you course
worse,
correct?
right? Yeah,
Or worse,
potentially
right?
disastrous.
Catastrophic, right? You're talking life and death here. So how do the super rich course correct? What's their strategy? Well, the strategy they use, it's called stress testing. Stress testing is simply questioning the underlying assumptions of your planning to make sure it's going to deliver the results that you expect. And you ask questions like, have I been planning for an unexpected tax bill? What do I do if I get an unexpected tax bill? And it's really questioning those assumptions that you and your advisors have made. And the super rich will bring in someone to help conduct a stress test to look at these areas. It's like our president Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Because as your wealth grows, the impact of an error becomes a whole lot more, right? 1% of $1 billion is a whole lot more than 1% of $100,000. And you want to catch those errors. You want to course correct before they're big errors. That's what stress testing does. The super rich do it. You should consider doing it also.
Similarity to what we do at the Dental Efficiency Guy when we're implemented with a large practice or group in incremental improvements, whether that's cost savings or systems and processes, because you have to inspect what you expect. And many times today, practices are so busy seeing patients that they don't have the human capital to do it or do it effectively. So we have to implement a system that gets it, pulls it, pulls the data, reliable data, pulls it and delivers it where and how you need it. So I 100%, right? That's so good. Um, What role do things like legacy and impact and
Mhm.
life after dentistry
Mm,
play in creating a meaningful exit? And
mm.
not just a profitable one, right? What else applies besides the number?
Yeah. Well, right. We're both fans of Dan Sullivan, and it comes back to how do you make your future bigger than your past? You should always have a bigger future. And when you're getting ready to exit, right, the emotional preparedness for this, and this is some of the deep work that I do with my clients, is getting ready for what's next, because I believe your exit is simply a transition. You're not leaving anything behind. You're actually stepping into what's next. And that's what gets me so excited. And that's where you can really start thinking about legacy. You can start thinking about what's the impact that you want to have. Like, yes, you've had impact on your patients. Yes, you've changed lives that way, but how do you do it now? For example, some of my
Future
clients, when they
pacing
sold,
and 10x,
you're right,
right?
exactly. Right. They sold their practice and they'd always wanted to be involved with the arts, and they'd never really had the time to do it. So as we were looking at their exit, we worked and built some tax-wise strategies so that they could actually make a large charitable deduction to their own private family foundation, essentially, right? Without all the big fees and expenses. So we did that. We created that charitable pool that they can now give from. They were able to make a large donation to their local arts museum. Now they're on the board. They're serving there. They are more involved than they've ever been, and they're having even more of an impact now because they were able to tie that business and the personal and become more efficient with their taxes. And by doing that, they're achieving even more than they've ever thought was possible. And that's part of what I do is I help you see what's possible and encourage you to step into what's next so that you have a bigger future than the past.
Yeah, so I would imagine an aspect of that is also helping them to dive into like what does that dream look like, right? What does that next you look like beyond this? And there's a little bit of recreation of self, dreaming, creating that destination or that goal or sometimes that wish, that vision. That many times again when you're in the weeds, you just don't have time to stop and think
Yeah.
about. So
Well, right,
that's
and
powerful.
so much of your identity becomes wrapped up in what you do, right? Which is crazy because we're human beings, Gabe. We're not human doers. We are human beings, and the more we focus on that and who you really are, that's how you create that identity of your future self. That's how you have an even bigger impact than you ever dreamt was possible.
It's so good, and it's not, this just it's not just dental, right? Like that right there that we're talking about applies to anyone and everyone, right? No matter where you are in life, but taking the time to think about, and if you haven't read 10x is easier than 2x, there are a lot of actionable strategies from Dan Sullivan and Dr. Ben Hardy in that book based on what we've been talking about, right? I mean, I again, like there's so many things you can take from that and actually apply um, and just leveling up on yourself, your mindset, and everything else in your life. So, man, I look forward to seeing that when you come out with that. Make sure you
Mm,
you hit me up with it.
absolutely.
Um, so good. So Tim, what when someone is looking at an exit, right, and you start working with them, and their numbers aren't where they want to be. They haven't spent any time thinking about their next, right? Who they're going to be in that next situation. You know, I is it always a 5-year plan or what does that look like, right, based on the business? We obviously, the title of the episode is Build a Lucrative Exit in 5 years. I know that you do that with clients, can potentially do it from startup, right? From the time they enter the business. But somebody that's in the business, again, we hear from our friend, Eric Morin that 98, 99% of data is incorrect. So that goes back to the systems, the process, data. I heard Pat Bauer at Heartland Dental Care now says that he's in the business of data. That's the largest DSO in the nation. And he says, my business is data, which was just, it changed my mindset, right? About the approach in the business, because not only are you generating data, the data has to be accurate. The data has to be like you're evaluating the data. You're using that data for actionable strategies. So anyway, that's just in my world, it was an epiphany. It's eye opening. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think, there's a lot of people at different points in their process, in their journey, and they may have thoughts about exit, but they haven't started that process.
Yeah. Well, it starts with just doing an analysis of where you are right now, right? Maybe you're emotionally burnt out. Maybe you are tired of the practice and you're just so exhausted. And you're like, I really don't care what the business is worth. I just want to unload the thing and walk away. And you know what? If that's where you are, like we'll do the assessment, we'll figure out where you're at, and at least you know. And that may be a right answer for you, is just to walk away and say, I'm done washing my hands. Let's go figure out what's next. For others, you may say, no, I really want to grow the value of this thing. I want to accelerate the value. I want to be the one to harvest my lifetime of hard work. And if that's the case, you start working on that plan. And actually, as a certified exit planning advisor, part of what we're always doing is analyzing that plan. We're working on the value acceleration. And then we're asking the question every 90 days, do you keep or do you sell? Do you keep or do you sell? So it's always working together so that you as the owner are really in the driver's seat and you're the one making that decision. So these are highly personal things. And some people start going through the exit planning process 2, 3 years in, they're like, I love my business again. I don't want to leave because I finally got it fixed. In fact, that was a journey I was on. I was ready to exit because I didn't have a lot of the efficiencies in my practice. Once I solved those, I came back alive. I'm like, I can't imagine doing anything else. So you got to find out where you are on this whole scale. And you can exit immediately or you can exit a decade from now, but it's going to come back to your goals and let that drive that. Don't let another advisor drive it. Don't let your CPA, don't let the business broker. You need to be the one driving your exit because you are the one in the driver's seat and you're the one in charge.
Wow. Yeah. Gosh. So Tim, what are the different ways in which you work with clients? Obviously, I know you educate quite a bit. You're speaking to people about building lasting wealth and legacy. But yeah, can you add a little bit of detail? Is the different facets in which you work with clients
Yeah.
at different points in their journey?
Yeah, I really work with eight-figure families and aspiring eight-figure families, right? You've accumulated some wealth and you maybe have 3 or 4 different advisors and you're just not sure if the advice you're getting is actually making a difference. And so successful dental entrepreneurs will engage me to do that second opinion, to help conduct that stress test, to make sure things are buttoned up and make sure they do have that exit plan in place. And through that process, you're going to gain clarity on what's next. You're going to walk away with some ideas on what strategies, what tactics make sense for you. And as a fiduciary advisor, I act in your best interest. That's so important. Many advisors are not fiduciaries. Look for a fiduciary, someone who's going to work in your best interest. My whole goal is to help you accelerate yours. I don't care if that goal is to stay in your practice. I don't care if that goal is to exit. I don't care if that goal is to build value, right? Whatever you're working on, I want to get behind you and support your goals. And so really that work I do with clients, like I said, it's giving a second opinion and conducting the stress test to make sure you're going to get the results that you're expecting.
Thank you, Tim. And I know, let me vouch that everything you just said is so true because you are so grateful with your time and your knowledge to helping people understand, not only where they are, but the things that they need to know, and taking that a step further, how to apply those, and and you make yourself accessible to help people. I know your book, and I think, do you have another one coming out here soon as
Got a
well?
got another one coming out called High Value Exit: The 7 Steps Every Owner Must Take Before Exiting. And we dive into it's a short read. It's like 20 pages. And I just want to give real
Oh,
high level overview, like what are the steps you take if you are considering an exit? And so super excited to launch that, working with our friend Dr. Catrice Austin, the Queen of Smiles. And
oh yeah, sure.
she's just fantastic and super excited to launch that book.
Wow, that's great. I mean, obviously, it's very aligned with what we're talking about tonight. So, be sure and get a copy of that when Tim releases it. I I thought I saw that somewhere. I was hoping I wasn't speaking out of place or bursting a bubble before it was out in the open.
I
Uh,
we'll come up with my next book I'm gonna launch, and then I'll have to scramble and get it done.
well, yeah, maybe that will be a few people writing a book on different aspects
Mm.
of building groups or practices to be in the position to exit. Um,
You heard it here first, folks. Is we're going to have a book written with several of the key players helping you build a high value exit.
I want to make a quick shout out too because I was speaking with an individual today that has an absolutely massive single practice, and he knew of you based on proximity, Tim, and and we were having a conversation on a high
Mm,
level, but also diving into um, the network of people that are there to help not only him but him and his doctors achieve the goals that they have in this, I mean, just massive practice. And he said to me, he said, I really don't know, I have to ask, how do I not know about you, or I have not spoken to you to this point? Because, in the circles that I'm in, I talk to so many doctors that may not even be using metrics in their practice or may not even be doing X, Y, and Z. And I won't get into all the details, but it was eye opening to him in that, in the conversation, that obviously putting yourself around the people that want to add value and help you get to where you go, and you're absolutely one of those. Like I said, he knew of you, and it was a great
mm,
conversation. But I just wanted to give you a shout out because
thank you.
um that conversation just helped me to open my eyes. I have those conversations a lot, but the one, that was just today, and it holds so true, right? The key is meeting people where they are, truly understanding or investing in learning not only where they are, but then helping to show them. Sometimes destinations aren't clear because we're so in the weeds, right? And so we have to push those weeds out of the way, show them through a new lens that this is the capability, this is the possibility, and then lift them up or help them to get there. And you do that.
Mm,
Again, you do that for many of the entrepreneurs in dentistry that aren't necessarily practice owners or group owners, as well as practice and group owners. And I can say I know that from knowing you as a friend and a peer.
mm.
But thank you so much for coming on tonight. Tim, is there anything that you would like to share? Kind of a last thought, a tidbit, an insight, tip, or trick on the dental efficiency playbook for our viewers.
Yeah, efficiency matters, Gabe. It matters more than just about anything else. And the reason efficiency matters is every single one of you have limited time. I've got a limited amount of time on this planet. I will die someday. All of you will. And efficiency matters. And how
Absolutely.
you spend your time, how you spend your resources, how you spend your days matter. So efficiency just isn't about the bottom line. It's about the impact that you can have on the people you love, the causes you care about. It's how you can make an even greater impact. So I just don't want you to think about efficiency from profit. I want you to think about the efficiency of your time and how you're spending it, because I want you to spend it wisely. I want you to have that impact that got you into the business at that first place. And I want your future even bigger than your past. And if you focus on the right kind of efficiency, you're going to build that amazing life of significance, and you're going to do it quicker and with less effort than you ever thought.
Wow, that's so good, Tim. Again, thank you so much for joining. I always enjoy speaking with you. I know that there are gems throughout the, almost hour, 40 minutes that we've been talking. There's so much great stuff for people, that I would suggest listening to this more than once to take those strategies and potentially, whether that's implementing them directly in your business, or reach out to me, reach out to Tim. And Tim, how best do people get a hold of you?
Oh, I'm super easy to find. You type timmcneely.com in and I'll pop up. TIMMCNEELY.com. Or call or text me anytime. 818 534 4949. Always happy to help and serve you in any way that I can.
Yeah, or you can reach out to me, Gabriel Hoffman, also known as the Dental Efficiency Guy. You can always reach out to me at the Dental Efficiency Playbook Show as well, that is on all the primary streaming channels. Thank you so much for viewing. Hopefully, you were able to find insight, tips, tricks, or the occasional cheat code to help you level up this dental game. Till next time, thanks so much. All right, I think that was good.